Dear white people, imagine it is New Year's Eve and you're sitting around your house with your family, but you know that every January 1st, your you and your family members, especially your children, will possibly more than likely be sold to another plantation. And remember, white folk, you all are the slaves. Black people are your masters, okay? So the black people, New Year's Eve, they're celebrating because, hey, you're nothing but property to them. But you, as a white slave, you are filled with dread and grief and despair because you know that at least one or more of your children are going to be sold to another plantation. Well, you know what that day was called? Every January 1, Heartbreak Day or Hiring Day. That's what the slaves called it. Now you may be wondering, how come I never heard of this? Because they don't want you to know the truth, white folk. And I'm teaching this to you not so you can walk around with white guilt and condemnation, but I want you to be aware. You need to know. So, today people celebrate New Year's Day with joy and resolutions and parties, but for enslaved people in the United States, New Year's Day, it was known as Heartbreak Day or Hiring Day. On this day, families were torn apart, all for the sake of the white man's profit. Children were sold away from their parents, and labor contracts changed hands like a business deal. If you don't believe me, I showed y'all this, one of my other videos. See this? Look at my other videos, you don't see this. I am explaining to you, can you imagine, white women, that your child that you bore, you know you will possibly never see them again? See, it's not like today when we have GPS or we have Find My iPhone and all that. It was none of this technology. Hell, it wasn't even any cars. And the agony, do you know the grief I feel just from when I think I've lost my child in a store? And knowing the atrocities that happened to children during slavery, the raping, just the perversion. Let's get into it. What is the meaning of Hiring Day or Heartbreak Day? On January 1st, enslaved laborers were often hired out to new enslavers for the year. This meant being sent away from your family to work under new, often cruel conditions with unfamiliar people. Some enslaved people never saw their families again. Now, why did this happen on New Year's? Slave contracts and financial transactions were typically settled at the start of the new year after the fall harvest, okay? So white plantation owners and businesses reassessed their labor needs for the upcoming year. So many enslaved people were sold or leased to new enslavers, separating families permanently. Let's talk about the horror of the slave auctions on New Year's. Imagine, y'all, I just told you, imagine the fear and grief. They stand you up there on the chopping block, most times stripping you down, particularly if you're a woman, because they needed to see if you had your breasts were comely for nursing. And if they wanted to, the slave men to have them as bucks, to produce bigger a breed of slaves, then they will, of course, dehumanize the man and show his personal private area as well. Many spent the night holding their loved ones, knowing that dawn might mean goodbye forever. Enslaved people wrote about this pain. Formerly enslaved people like Frederick Douglass and others documented these traumatic events. Excerpts from a former slave narrative says this. Listen to this. It says, "On New Year's Day, my mother was taken away. She cried, but the master didn't even care. They didn't give a damn. You were property." The auction block was a common sight. On New Year's Day, enslaved people were lined up, examined like livestock, and sold to the highest bidder. Come on, white folk. Come on, white folk. You cannot be this detached. You cannot be this detached that you don't understand why black people are due reparations. Imagine, put yourself, you are the enslaved. Some of y'all don't even understand what happened on these plantations. Some of y'all think they were just little happy darkies walking around there eating watermelon and picking cotton and getting lunch breaks. You have no clue. because either you don't know, don't care, don't want to care to know the truth. And then you have the audacity. You have the ignorant audacity to not even want to learn about it and then tell us to get over it. It's in our DNA, y'all. They had no say in their fate. Husbands were taken from wives and children from mothers. And then you tell us to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. We didn't even have no fucking boots. Enslaved people's resistance and prayer vigils. Black folk always praying, ain't we? But one day, white folk, you better be careful, because the day we get up off our knees, the day black people decide, you know what, we done prayed enough, and the kingdom of heaven suffered violence, and the violent take it by force, it'll be a day of reckoning for y'all. Spiritual resistance. Enslaved communities gathered on New Year's Eve for secret church services known as watch night services. These prayer vigils were both a plea for protection and a form of resistance. Today, night watch services are still a tradition in many black churches, and it's true. But some black churches, you don't even know why you have night watch service. It's all started from the slaves gathering, praying to God that their loved ones won't be sold from them. Now I understand why the white man took so many different books out of the Bible, manipulated the Bible, and even had a slave Bible, because they just wanted the slaves to just rely on God. God's going to do it. And you be a good master. You be a good slave to your master. Also, enslaved Africans were attempting to stay together. Some enslaved people ran away before New Year's to avoid being sold, but the majority of them got caught. And of course, when they were caught, they were whipped, beat, castrated, and that's on a good day. Others pleaded with enslavers or tried to make secret deals to stay close to their families. Connection to the Emancipation Proclamation. The meaning of January 1st, 1863. New Year's Day took on a new meaning when Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. Enslaved people rejoiced and celebrated, but full freedom was not immediate. Like anything that's due black people, it ain't ever immediate, except for getting arrested. Many enslaved people in Confederate-controlled areas were still not freed until much later, and it's thus the Juneteenth in Texas, June 19th, 1865. So what's the legacy? The legacy of the Heartbreak Day. Why this matters in our history. Many black families today can trace their family separations back to the forced migrations of slavery. And that is why the trauma of these separations shaped the economic, social, and emotional landscape of black America. So we need to honor our ancestors. Today, many black churches and families still gather on New Year's Eve for night watch service, reflecting on both the struggles and triumphs of our ancestors. And we must continue telling these stories. So I got a call for action for you folks. Have you ever heard about the dark history of New Year's Day for enslaved people? I'm sure some of my own black people don't know, but I know y'all white folk don't. I encourage you to share your thoughts. And share your thoughts in my comment section on what you feel about what you just heard. See, this is not made up stuff. I'm not making this up. I didn't write this. You see this? This is not made up. This is our history that you want us to erase. Don't erase it. Don't remove books. See, you have to learn from your haunted, wicked past so never to repeat it again. Every lesson unlearned is a lesson repeated, folks. White folk, you got to do better. It's time to reckon. And if you are one of those awakened allies, God bless you. But your job is to help awaken your fellow whites. But I do need to let you all know one thing. Heaven is not segregated, and neither is hell. So white folk, you walk around here with all this hate in your heart, you're going to be walking around in hell with it too. And I don't care how much you tote no MAGA Bible. You can say all you want. In the day, God is judge. Talk to you soon. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. We got to do better.